Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Dentistry Unmasked. I'm Dr. Pam Maragliano-Muniz. With me, as always,
Hey, Dr. David Rice. How are you, Pam?
I'm doing well. I'm excited this week because we're talking about a controversial topic, and it's one that I feel like it's making me like a little hot. So I feel like one of my prized possessions, whether you realize it or not, is your dental license, right? It's probably this little piece of paper that's cost you so much time, so much money, so much effort, and getting it is a privilege, right? It is. But what happens if you want to move or you want to, maybe you live like I do, like not too far from another state and you want to get your license there? And there is a legit controversy going on right now. And it's about attaining your license, right? And also portability of the license. And it's called, if you wanted to kind of generalize what this is called, these are dental compacts that are out there that are kind of being placed in front of legislation to, in some instances, get rid of any board exam, right? Or have kind of a limited board exam that will allow you to transfer your license to different states. So I needed to bring in an expert. We brought in Sheli Cobler. She is the executive director for Credits, the testing agency in the middle of this country. Sheli, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we were talking a little bit before we jumped on here, and I feel like I could see both sides. Like having taken multiple board exams in dental hygiene and dentistry, and teaching in the university, I feel like I could see both sides of this. So I don't feel polarized in one way or another, but I want to hear from your perspective as a testing agency. What ramification could this have to just do away with board exams or make it so simplified that your license is just sort of acceptable almost anywhere?
Sure. Sure. Again, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be with you guys today. And I don't know if expert is the right word, but what I will tell you is I've done extensive research. I've been in mm, uh, countless meetings on the topic, and I've learned as much as I can. I've thoroughly read through every word of each compact. And so, while maybe not an expert, I do have a lot of information to share. And first and foremost, David had mentioned while we were just having a conversation, that this has so many layers. And that's an important thing to recognize. There's you think about one topic that leads you to think about another topic and so on. And so it is very complicated. But to simplify things, I think the bottom line is everybody who is a dental or dental hygiene professional, licensed professional, wants portability. I think that is across the board a true statement. So, and we want to see portability as well. We think that, you know, one person licensed in one state should be able to, as long as they meet the standards of another state, be able to move and practice there, either move or share states. There's so many states that people live on the border, and you go back and forth from one office to another. So we are not opposed to portability. In fact, we encourage it. We're not even opposed to compacts, which is the topic of today's podcast. Uh, but we want a well-written, equitable, public safety, ensuring compact. We just don't feel like we can support either of these compacts as written. So as you go forward, you'll talk about the what I'm going to call the CSG compact. It's Council of State Governments, I believe, written with the ADA. I believe they call it the DDH compact. So it is a dental and dental hygiene compact. So it encompasses both professions. The problem with their compact is, first of all, in my opinion, the compact was introduced into legislation before consulting any of the state dental boards. Now, mind you, every state dental board, nearly every state, let me be correct in that statement, not every state, nearly every state in the country requires a hand skills component as part of a clinical licensure examination as a pathway toward licensure. The CSG compact includes the DLOSCI as a pathway toward licensure. It's a dental licensure objective structured examination, I believe is the acronym. It is a written only examination. It's a long examination. Some would liken it to the national boards that you have to take. It doesn't have a hand skills component. That's a big concern for nearly all of the dental professionals I've spoken to. So that is the main concern. There are others, but again, just to keep it high level and talk about the most important parts. That is from a credits testing agency perspective, that's a real issue. It not only includes the DLOSCI, but it says or other pathways deemed appropriate, I think, by the compact. So that could lead to, as we talked about, Marquette in Wisconsin. Wisconsin now allows graduates of Marquette Dental School to be licensed upon graduation. No exam at all. They don't even have to take a written exam. So that is a really dangerous slope, we feel like, toward no licensure exams required for dentistry. The dentists I've talked to, the professionals I've talked to, the research I've done say that hand skills component in dentistry is extremely important because that is what you are doing every day, day in and day out. Not always does the information, the didactic information, the knowledge that you learn in school going to transfer to hand skills. And what we know after 50 years of research and data is that 1 to 3% of people graduating from dental or dental hygiene school cannot pass a hand skills exam. As a consumer, that frightens me, and it should frighten the public, frankly. So that is the issue with the CSG compact. Are you okay with me to go ahead with the perspective of the next one, or do you want to stop for a minute?
I think we want to hear the second one, and then we can sort of hash
Sure.
out some questions after.
Digest some of it. Okay. So the second compact was written by the American Association of Dental Boards, the AADB, in response to the CSG compact going before state legislators without any input from state dental boards. They recognize that as dental professionals, as examiners, as people that are enforcing the laws, that the dental boards needed to be included in these decisions. They also recognize that a hand skills component is imperative. Again, that's based on the majority of the US requiring it, has been a requirement for 50 years. It is for public safety. So the AADB recognized this and put out their own compact. Credits would love to support this compact because we do think it is more fair and reasonable than some of the stipulations in the CSG compact. However, the AADB chose to include only one clinical examination as the pathway toward licensure. So their compact says that you have to have completed the ADEX exam in order to get a compact related license, or it does include the other testing examining agencies by saying, or have practiced for 5 years in with an unencumbered license. So while that is okay and good, it makes no sense for any of the testing agencies who administer an examination that is accepted nationally to be excluded from that. That is, if portability is really the reason for these compacts, that doesn't make any sense. You're restricting portability if you're not going to accept all of the clinical exams that are accepted nationally. So we have reached out to the AADB on multiple occasions, most recently with an official letter from our executive board requesting that they change that language to include all of the currently accepted national examinations. So that's our position on the compacts. Again, we don't think that they're a bad idea, generally speaking. We just want a very well-written compact that supports portability but does not compromise public safety.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here. And this is what I think a lot of people question, students and maybe even some faculty. Shouldn't dental school be enough?
Well, I hear that. I do hear that. I hear that repeatedly. My take on that, again, this isn't a personal take. This is from research, from talking to various dentists, both examiners and non-examiners. There is pressure on school administrations to pass all of the students. So there's quota pressure. There are many reasons that faculties of these dental and dental hygiene programs are being pressured to ensure that everybody graduates. On top of that, you layer the risk of lawsuit if for some reason you don't. We know that's happened. You can go out on Google and find instances where that's happened. Again, I will go back to the data of 50 years of analytics and data by all of the testing agencies, to my knowledge, but I can specifically speak on behalf of credits. We have data that shows 1 to 3% of graduating students cannot pass a hand skills exam. We think that requires more remediation at the very least, maybe more education, something, but we certainly don't think that you should be licensed if you can't pass a hand skills exam. So education should be enough, but the schools aren't regulated. And we don't know from school to school what their curriculum looks like. They vary. And so the only thing we have at this point is a hand skills exam, is a clinical licensure exam, which includes a hand skills component. That's all we have right now to keep that 1 to 3% who's going to eventually come before the board with complaints from practicing.
So obviously medicine different in that there are a significant number of physicians out there who don't need hand skills. But when you look at a medical board compared to a dental board, like how does medicine standardize medical school where dentistry seems to have a challenge?
You know, that's a really complicated question that I've only I haven't really gotten very deep into my research on that, but what I have found thus far is that it's not apples to apples. You can't compare that, because while they are taking a standard for maybe one level of medical practice, they have a residency. They all have a residency. Dentistry doesn't have that. Now, if you're going to specialize, obviously you have additional education and or the different requirements for that. But again, I guess I would go back to if as a country, as a nation, we could come to figure out what should a curriculum look like, one, and two, how do we assess people on their hand skills uniformly without an exam? Maybe that is a residency, a short-term residency. Maybe it's just you have to have a mentorship for 6 months before you can practice on your own. But as it stands right now, you can get your license, your dental license, and you can start your own practice. And if you have passed the DLOSCI or gone to Marquette, then nobody knows if you could pass a hand skills exam or not. So what does that look like? How does that transfer to public safety?
True story.
So many layers, so many things to talk about. And I think that unfortunately we don't have the time to do a deep dive on all of the nuances here. If somebody wants to educate themselves, where's a great place to go?
So both the AADB has a compact website, and the CSG also has a compact website. You can find either of those online, and they both have their maps showing for the CSG which states have already enacted the compact. For the AADB, you'll find where legislation is pending or being introduced. And then there's a wealth of information. You can actually read the compact yourself, which I would highly encourage. Read the compacts, educate yourselves, educate your friends, educate your colleagues, and most importantly, if you can advocate for the profession at the legislative level, do so. Most state dental boards can't do that. They can't actively lobby. So it's going to be up to the individuals in the dental and dental hygiene profession to do so if anything's gonna take place.
Well, thank you so much. I will definitely share links in our show notes. So if you want to check that out, you certainly can access both of those really, really easily. Sheli, thank you so much for sharing your insights and a little background on these compacts. To be honest with you, prior to meeting you and chatting with you and hearing from Andrew, I didn't even know that these types of discussions were going around. I've heard anecdotes about licensure and board exams and things like that, but to hear that there is active movement on possibly doing away with them or completely changing how we obtain our licensure, I didn't know. And so I don't think everybody else out there knows. So thank you for spreading awareness on this topic.
I appreciate that opportunity because you're absolutely right. Not everybody knows portability is important, but they don't understand what's happening with that being the face of the issue. One other thing, if I may mention, the credits website, crdts.org. Also, if you go to our news section, you can find out more about our perspective, the credits perspective on the compacts as well. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to educate people and get involved.
Thank you so much. This is fantastic. And so we're going to flip the penny and hear the other side of the discussion here. So thank you, Sheli, for joining us. And I look forward to maybe I'll have an opinion by the end of this. So thank you.
It'd be great to hear. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So, Pam, we've been talking about reasons to have a clinical element to the exam in a board exam, just in general. But there's another side of this story, right? There's another perspective to look at and to think about and to try to understand. So, all of us as one dental profession can move forward in the best possible way.
It's really funny. You know how they say like 4 out of 5 dentists agree? And I don't know about you. I've never found 4 out of 5 dentists agreeing on one thing. So I feel like this is going to be a discussion that's going to be ongoing for a while. But we needed to bring in another perspective. So I would love to welcome Matt Shafer. He is the Deputy Policy Director for the National Center for Interstate Compacts, specifically the Council of State Governments, the CSG. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, we wanted to hear your perspective and what you're working on, and also the CSG's compact would require dentists not to even take a board exam, a hands-on board exam, correct?
So the compact requires a clinical assessment. Clinical assessment is defined broadly to encompass multiple pathways to licensure. So that could include a GPR, PGY1 residency. That could include the traditional hands-based skills assessment like the ADEX, the credits. I know credits and CERT I think are merging. I don't know what the new name is, but that particular exam. It could also include an OSCE, the DL OSCE, which is accepted in I think 8 states now. And so rather than dictate one set pathway to licensure that the dentist would need to have accomplished in order to use the compact. We say, all valid and reliable measures of clinical competence are acceptable under the compact, and it's not really our place to dictate to dental students what exam they need to take in order to get their license, and leave that up to them to choose. But just in terms of a little bit of background about the compact, so we've been working at CSG on the Dentist and Dental Hygienist Compact for over 4 years now. This was an outgrowth of a grant program that's funded by the Department of Defense, and their angle on this whole issue is taking care of military families, particularly military spouses who are highly mobile and needing to change their state of residence very often because of basing decisions that occur within the military. And so they've kind of said compacts are the best solution for our military families in order for our spouses to stay in the workforce and maintain access to the profession that they have been practicing in. So the ADA, the American Dental Association, and the American Dental Hygienist Association both applied to this grant program to work with CSG to develop the compact. That was back in 2021. We worked with them in a broad, diverse group of stakeholders for about 18 months on the language, held a lengthy public comment period where the draft language was able to be reviewed, and we received a lot of input on the language, and then it was finalized in January of 2023. We currently have 10 states that have joined the compact. Your state signs up to participate in the compact by passing a piece of model legislation. That's the language that we were developing. They pass that through the legislature, and that's how your state joins the compact. So that's there's 10 states that have enacted the compact at this point, and we're working with those 10 states right now to get all of this implemented, and expect people to actually start to be able to use it probably within the next year or so.
That's really interesting. So I was poking around your website, and yeah, I thought that was interesting that your compact in particular, the ADA and the ADHA are supporting.
Yes, they're fundamental, a foundational piece of all of this. CSG, we would never just go and write a compact on behalf of the profession. It has to be led by the industry. And so when the ADA came forward, ADHA, ADEA is very supportive. The Dental Education Association, the Dental Student Association is very supportive. The DSOs, the Association of DSOs is very supportive as well. So I would say the vast majority of organized dentistry is behind this compact.
How does each, so if 10 states are involved and said yes, like how is each state looking at it, since every state seems to have its own board exam to decide, somebody's fate? What was their input?
Right. So the state legislature passes the compact into law, and then the dental boards themselves are the ones that administer and actually implement the compact on an ongoing basis. So each state elects one representative to sit on what we call the compact commission, and this commission is the group that will be writing the rules to implement the compact and ensure that it's working properly. All the states are kind of upholding their end of the bargain here, and the legislative intent is being achieved. So the commission is made up of representatives of the state dental board, so they're going to be the ones actually implementing this on an ongoing basis. And CSG is involved in helping the commission get established, but after about 12 to 18 months, our role fades away, and the commission will be a independent entity, and we won't have a role anymore.
That's really interesting. So on your website, I see that there's a map of the states. And it's interesting because the states are kind of all over the place. It's not just one region where it seems, kind of like CSG pro heavy, if you would. And so, did this start as an access to care issue? Because I noticed some of the states tend to have access to care issues.
I think that's certainly an element of it. Workforce shortages, access to care. I think the main driver is just making it easier to practice in multiple states. We hear all the time about people who live near a state border. Maybe they just need to practice in a neighboring state a couple days a week or something, but they haven't been able to because the licensure process is so difficult to navigate. And so the compact is really the primary purpose of it is to facilitate that cross-state practice. And I think this is particularly relevant in regions like the Northeast, where you've got a large number of states in a small region where, you might have 4 or 5 state borders within a 45-minute drive of you. And so really opens up your options as a licensee to be able to go and explore some of those new employment opportunities in other states where maybe previously you didn't have access to. But access to care and workforce shortages is certainly another reason why states are looking at the compact.
Is that, I guess, compared to, ADEX as an example? Like, if I take ADEX, I can work in pretty much most states, right? So I guess what's the benefit of one versus the other?
Sure. So with the compact, you're not actually needing to navigate each state's individual licensing process. So you mentioned, if you take ADEX, that's accepted in, I think, 47 jurisdictions. So you'd have access to basically the whole country. But you would still be required to apply to the state board there. You'd be required to wait on the board to make a determination on your application. And that takes time and required to do things like provide proof of licensure in another state. Getting a certified letter from another state board is difficult. That takes time. Providing things like transcripts. And so the compact would really eliminate the need for all of that. And you maintain one state issued license, and your ability to practice in any compact member state is streamlined. And so, yes, passing the ADEX exam provides a level of portability, but you're still having to obtain licensure in every state where you want to practice, where the compact would not require that.
Gotcha.
So this is a polarizing topic. I feel like there's some people that are over here and they're like, no, 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 I took a board exam. Everybody should take a board exam moving forward because that's a standard in addition to dental school. And I could see other people on the other side saying, you know what, we all went through dental school. Each dental school in the US is accredited. We have requirements. We successfully passed those. There's obviously another, let's call it an exam, if you will. There's obviously a standardized exam of some sort that you have to take to then gain licensure. And then this would allow you to, get licensure in multiple states. If somebody is so inclined to want to write to their state legislator, or they want to do something about it, or they want their voice heard, what should they do?
Yeah, so I would say the majority of activity on this topic is occurring at the state dental association level. So we have a relationship with the ADA and the ADHA, and then they work very closely with their state chapters, their state associations, to actually get the bill introduced and try to get it into law. So if there's somebody who really wanted to get involved in advocacy, I'd say reach out to your state dental association and kind of see where they're at in terms of conversations around the compact. At this point, we've from CSG, we've talked with most of the state dental associations, and they kind of have their stance. But yeah, I would reach out, kind of see where your state association is at, and if there's any ongoing efforts to lobby, advocate for the compact. I think that'd be a good place to start.
Awesome. That was super helpful.
Yeah, this is terrific. Well, thank you so much for sharing this overview and, what the compact would look like and, where we're at with it. And so, yeah, this is kind of all we were looking for.
Okay, great.
Hey,
Thanks for
Matt,
the
thank you.
opportunity.
Yeah,
No,
appreciate
thank
you.
you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, really
Okay,
helpful.
absolutely.
Take care,
All right,
Matt.
y'all have a good one. Bye.
You too. Thank you.
So Pam, what's your take?
Gosh, to be honest with you, I'm still not 100% sold in either way. We didn't hear the whole story, right? We did not have somebody here from the AADB, but I think that we got a good general idea of kind of the conversation that's being had. I still see both sides to it, and I try to take my own emotions out of it because I took boards. I took hygiene boards. I took a bunch of dental boards for different states. So I know that it's stressful and that your license depends on you successfully completing this exam on this one special day on that one special patient. And there's a lot of variation that can take place.
Yes.
So I feel like we should have something. Like there should be something. I do. I don't think necessarily graduating from dental school should be enough. I don't necessarily believe that. Um, but I also think that, the live patient exams, there's so many factors that could contribute or detract from one's success. And it's costly. It's time. You lose time if you don't pass that exam, if your patient doesn't show up, so there again, I don't think we should be penalized for the actions of another or for biology.
So I absolutely feel like there should never be a patient, a human involved. There's in today's world, there's to me zero reason for that to happen. I do agree with what you shared though. Let's be honest, dental schools are not all created equally. And we have to admit that and either hold every dental school to the same exact standard, a la the curriculum's the same, the clinical experience is the same, no ifs, ands, or buts. And if we can't do that, then yeah, we need an assessment because we've got people graduating from some school, they've done a procedure one time, two times, and then in another school, they've done it 20, 30 times. So that's an unreasonable way to grant licensure as far as I'm concerned today. So I'm definitely sold on no patient. I'm not sold on not having a standardized exam that everybody takes that looks, walks, talks, feels the same.
What's your take on the 1 year residency in lieu of the board exam?
I think residencies are just like dental schools. Some of them are really good and some of them are atrocious. So if we're going to standardize them, great. And then I think that needs to be something that every state accepts or doesn't accept, right? I hate to be a New York, I'm originally a New York guy, so I go do my residency there, and then I want to move to another state, and they're going to come back and make me take a test. So, like, just make it a unified process. I don't understand why we can't have one unified process across the country, and then everybody has licensure wherever they want to go.
Okay, so in summary, we feel like there should be something.
Yep.
There should be something that's standard and representative of what would define clinical competence for a dentist to be licensed somewhere. We think the human element, as far as from the patient perspective, should be removed from that topic.
Mm-hmm.
But there should be something that should allow us portability of licensure. So I really do think that this conversation that's being had is necessary because it is a little ridiculous to not be able to get your license in a neighboring state when you're practicing the same dentistry or the same person and you have a dental license. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you summed it up really well. If I added one teeny bit, I would say that I don't think dentistry can make the argument of, well, no one in medicine takes a clinical exam. but everyone in medicine does a residency program from, 2 years and surgeons to, 8, 10, 12 years long, depending on their subspecialty. So they're getting a lot more reps in. So I think if we're just open and honest and we carry this discussion forward, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. And I feel like at least we're having the conversation today and we're moving the needle. And that's a really important first step.
I also would love for the conversation not to end here. We're lucky. It's our podcast. We could say what we want. And here we are having this conversation, but we're having this conversation kind of one-sided with you. So we would love it if you would hop over to Instagram and tell us what you think. Tell us about your board exam. Maybe one day when we talk, we want to talk about things that suck, I can tell you my board exam stories because they were not fun. So I think we should continue this discussion because it's necessary and it's happening. And many of us didn't even know this was happening. So let's keep this conversation rolling.
I love that so much. So till next time, gang, I hope you have a great day and see you on the gram.
See you next week.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.